I am Benjamin Netanyahu, and I never imagined that one day I would find myself witnessing such extraordinary and inexplicable events that would cause even many to doubt reality. As we know it in recent days, the city of Jerusalem has been the scene of a sequence of events that defy any logical explanation, phenomena that have attracted the watchful eyes of conspiracy theorists and those fascinated by the biblical prophecies that shape our history and our future. The first thing that caught my attention was the light. It was not just any light, like the sun at dawn, or the lamps that illuminate our streets at night. It was an intense and mysterious light, which seemed to come from nowhere, as if the sky itself were opening up to reveal something to us. For several nights in a row, the lights illuminated the horizon in a way that I could not understand. They were brighter than any star, more radiant than any full moon. This phenomenon became a mystery, and soon the entire city was talking about it. With each new night, more and more people gathered to watch, amazed and at the same time fearful. What was happening? There was no explanation. It was as if the heavens were sending us a message, something we couldn't quite understand, but which seemed to direct us towards something greater. In the midst of this perplexity, an unearthly sound was heard, something that cut through the air, making every bone in those nearby tremble. It was as if an invisible wind was passing through us, bringing with it a foreboding, a vibration that seemed to come from another world. Some people said the sound resembled trumpets being blown in the afterlife. Others claimed it was the sound of something sacred being revealed. One personally had never experienced anything like it in my life. It was a sound that penetrated the soul, as if something was about to happen, something that would transform our lives forever. Then something even stranger happened. A plague of locusts descended upon the city. I saw with my own eyes a huge swarm of creatures covering the sky, a black cloud that seemed to consume everything in front of it. The streets were deserted, and the city braced itself for the impact of what many believed to be a sign, a warning of something greater to come. But what could this mean? Were these events signs of hope, as many say, or omens of a dark and uncertain future? With each passing day, rumors grew and fear spread. Some spoke of fulfilling biblical prophecies, while others sought more rational answers. But something inside me, as the leader of this people, told me that these events were linked to the building of the third temple, the temple that, as we know, is the great milestone of our faith, the promise of a divine return, and the key to the end times, the temple that was destroyed twice throughout history, but now by the grace of God is being rebuilt before our eyes. The construction of the third temple in Jerusalem is something that connects us directly with the words of the scriptures, something that many Christians, Jews and Muslims await, each with their own interpretation. The importance of this temple lies not only in its physical structure, but in its spiritual meaning. It represents the reconciliation of a people with God. It is the sign of Christ's return to earth, the fulfillment of the prophecies that we have been waiting for millennia, and yet the construction of the temple is far from simple. The place where it is being built, the Dome of the Rock, is sacred to Muslims, which has generated a climate of religious and political tension that threatens to explode at any moment. I, as the leader of Jerusalem, found myself at the epicenter of a conflict that is not just political, but spiritual. We knew this would happen one day, but the reality of seeing these prophecies take shape before us is something none of us will be able to fully prepare for. As it is written in Matthew 24:30, "Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory." It was no longer a question of if it would happen, but when Christ's return, according to Scripture, is closely tied to the third temple. And I couldn't help but feel that the events we were witnessing in Jerusalem were part of this divine plan, a plan that seemed to be unfolding before our eyes. Despite all the challenges we face, as the construction of the temple progresses, tensions rise. The entire world watches every step we take, every decision we make. Many believe we are about to witness the fulfillment of a prophecy others fear. This is just the beginning of something much darker. But one thing is certain: Jerusalem, our holy city, is at the center of events that will shape the future of all humanity. We are in a time of transition, where the old and the new meet, where the fulfillment of the promises made by God to our ancestors is becoming a reality. I, as the leader of this nation, feel the weight of these words. We know the road ahead will not be easy, but we also know that we are witnessing something that many have been waiting for millennia. The third temple is being rebuilt, and with it the hope and fear we are living through. In the end times, the world as we know it will never be the same again, and as we move toward the completion of the temple, we are left with only one question: are we prepared for what is coming? Are these signs we are seeing just the beginning of a divine fulfillment, or are we about to be tested in ways we never imagined? The future is in our hands, and now more than ever is the time to hold fast to our faith, because as it is written in Revelation 21:3, and I heard a loud voice from heaven saying, Behold, the tabernacle of God is with men, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and God himself will be with them. We are about to witness the fulfillment of that promise. After decades of promises, after a long and arduous wait, we finally saw the beginning of the construction of the third temple. The entire world was paying attention to this moment. For many it was the fulfillment of a dream, the sign of divine restoration, and God's presence in our land, something that was deeply rooted in our history, our faith, and in the prophecies that had been handed down to us for generations. However, before the celebration began, something happened that shook the hearts of all of us. Jerusalem, our holy city, was hit by heavy rain. I had never seen such a storm. The waters fell from the sky with an intensity that seemed to announce something bigger, something beyond our understanding. But that was not all. A series of even more extraordinary events followed, as if the earth itself were responding to the process. We were witnessing the impact of the earthquake. The devastated Turkey and Syria has reached us, resonating in the city of Jerusalem. The earth shook beneath our feet, and fear spread among the people. The safety of our most sacred structures, including the Dome of the Rock, has been threatened. Tension has spread, especially among Muslims, who see the summit as a place of extreme importance. The fear that the construction of the third temple could bring even more serious consequences seemed to materialize before our eyes. Then something even more impressive happened. Lightning descended from the sky and struck the top of the Dome of the Rock. The entire city witnessed the intense glow that illuminated Jerusalem, as if the sky itself was giving a divine signal. The light it emitted was so strong that it seemed to reflect a heavenly force, as if God himself was interacting directly with our land. Then the consequences of the earthquake became even more apparent. Stones fell from above, impacting inside the Al-Aqsa Mosque, one of the holiest sites for Muslims. The ceramic stones, about 20 centimeters high, fell like a shower of stones, collapsing parts of the structure. The security of the dome was compromised, and the city of Jerusalem was put on alert. Religious and political tension was rising, as the symbolism of this event could not be ignored. Nature seemed to react to what was happening in our holy city. As the days passed, more stones fell, this time from a column adjacent to the Prophet's Gate, also known as the Double Gate. This gate, permanently closed along the southern wall, had been a symbol of something saved for the future, a transition point that now seemed to manifest. For many, these events were more than just coincidences. They were interpreted as signs, divine signs telling us that something much bigger was about to happen. Biblical scriptures warn us about the return of Jesus, and many have begun to see these events as the fulfillment of these prophecies. In Revelation 20:12 it is written, And behold, I am coming quickly, and my reward is with me, to give to every man according to his work. This verse echoed in my mind as I watched the signs unfold before me. Could this be the moment we were all waiting for? The return of Christ, or Were these events a harbinger of difficult times to come? For many in Jerusalem, these events were not just natural manifestations. They were signs of something greater, something that history had promised, something that was beyond human control. All eyes were on our city. The Holy Land and the mounting tension seemed to announce that something was about to happen, something that would forever change the course of history. The sight of Jerusalem illuminated by the lightning that struck the dome of the rock was like a divine symbol, a clear message that we were at the center of a greater plan, a plan that we could not fully understand, but that we knew was significant. The return of Christ spoken of in the scriptures seemed to be getting closer every day, and when the third temple was raised, the city of Jerusalem became the stage for a divine drama where God's promise to his people was about to become a reality. I invite you, friends, to join me as we explore the mysteries of the divine, signs that manifest before our eyes. In every fallen stone, in every bolt of lightning that lights up the sky, in every tremor of the earth, there is a deeper meaning. We are called to seek the truth, to keep our faith strong, and to prepare for what is to come. Are we living in the last days? Are the signs we are witnessing the fulfillment of Christ's prophecies? We do not know, but we do know that Jerusalem, our holy city, is being shaped by divine power, and that the future of humanity is before us. The construction of the third temple is only the beginning. What will come next, no one can predict, but one thing is certain. We are called to live these moments with faith, with hope, and with the certainty that, as it is written in Hebrews 10:37, for there is yet a little time, and he who is coming will come and will not delay. We are witnessing the manifestation of God on our earth, and the return of Christ is closer than ever. I am Benjamin Netanyahu, President of Jerusalem, and what I experienced in the last few days is something I could never have imagined. It was as if all of heaven and earth came together to announce something great, something that would change the destiny of our city and the entire world. Jerusalem, my beloved city, was bathed in a heavenly light, as if the heavens themselves opened a window to the divine. The lights danced in the sky with ethereal grace, as if they were angels, moving in a choreography that only God himself could orchestrate. As these lights illuminated our city, a symphony of supernatural sounds began to play, resounded in the air, like a divine melody, stirring the hearts of all present. The wind carried with it an indescribable sensation, a presence that seemed to come from ancient times, a message we could not ignore. But those were not the only signs we witnessed. While the heavens were shining, and the heavenly melodies touched our souls, something even more extraordinary occurred on earth. A massive swarm of locusts, vast and unstoppable, was unleashed upon Jerusalem. The locusts advanced like a dark cloud, covering the sky, and leaving in their wake a trail of wonder and fear. I immediately remembered the biblical plague, mentioned in the book of Exodus, where the locusts came to Egypt as a divine punishment. That memory brought with it great reflection. Was this a warning sign, a harbinger of the coming of the Messiah, or simply a testimony that the times we are living in are deeply significant? The phenomena that occurred in Jerusalem was so unusual and so powerful that many began to whisper that we had not witnessed anything like it. In 221 years, in my more than 6 decades of life, I had never witnessed anything like this, and as I looked out at the city, illuminated by heavenly light, I couldn't help but think of the words from the Gospel of Luke 21, when Jesus spoke about the events that would precede his second coming. In that passage he warned us, "Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be great earthquakes, famines and pestilences in various places, and terrible events and great signs in heaven." Luke 21:10-11. Those words echoed in my mind as I looked up at the sky, illuminated by heavenly light, and listened to the echoes of divine sounds. The fact that war and revolution are already occurring in various parts of the world, coupled with famines and pestilences that seem to be rampant in many regions, made me realize how close the times Jesus predicted are. War leads to poverty, poverty leads to hunger, and when humanity is faced with scarcity, pestilences find fertile ground to spread. The signs we are seeing seem to fit perfectly into this sequence that Christ left us as a warning, and I cannot help but wonder if we are witnessing the culmination of those events. As the days passed and the wonders of the city were revealed, the inhabitants of Jerusalem, both Jews and Christians, looked to the sky with a mixture of hope and fear. Some saw the light as a sign of Christ's return, while others were filled with uncertainty, wondering if the coming of the Messiah was imminent, or if, on the contrary, we were living in the days leading up to the prophesied Great Tribulation. And as the locusts advanced, covering everything in their path, many remembered Jesus' words about the pestilences that would come in the end times, and about how those signs would be only the beginning of something much greater. The city, like never before, seemed to be at the center of a divine drama. As the leader of this nation, I felt the pressure of being at the epicenter of events that would change not only Jerusalem, but the entire world. I knew that the decisions we made at this historic moment would be fundamental to the future of our land and to the fulfillment of divine promises. People walking the streets of Jerusalem, looking up at the illuminated sky, couldn't help but make connections to prophecies they knew, whether from the Bible or other religious traditions. Every light in the sky, every heavenly sound, seemed to speak of the proximity of an event that would change humanity forever. And as the locusts moved forward, reminding everyone of the biblical plague, I couldn't help but wonder if these signs were a prelude to Christ's second coming. The words of Luke 21 kept echoing in my mind. There will be great earthquakes, famines and pestilences in various places, and terrible events and great signs in heaven. Are we living in such times? I know that many in the world watch these events with wonder, while others try to unravel their meaning from a place of doubt or hope. But for those of us here in Jerusalem, it's impossible to ignore the sense that we are living in the last days. Something great is brewing in our midst, and the future is closer than we imagine. We are in the Holy Land, God's chosen place, and what is to come is greater than any historical event we have ever experienced. This is the time for reflection, prayer and preparation, because the signs are clear and Christ's return, according to the Scriptures, is imminent. The Scriptures tell us in Revelation 22:12, "Behold, I am coming quickly, and my reward is with me to give to every man according to his work." As these extraordinary events unfold before us, we must be prepared, because time is running out, and what is to come is something that will mark the end of an era and the beginning of something completely new. The heavenly light, the locusts, the earthquakes, and the signs from heaven are just the beginning of what is to happen. Jerusalem is living through historic times, and as president, it is my responsibility to lead our people with faith and wisdom, for what we are witnessing could be the culmination of all of God's promises for our land and our people. I am Benjamin Netanyahu, President of Jerusalem, and in recent days I have witnessed events that seem to shake the very roots of our history and the faith that has forged this city. The Temple Mount, a place where memories of a sacred past shine, has become a symbol not only of our tradition, but of the tension that runs through the very soul of Jerusalem. Many look at this place with deep devotion, while others see it through a lens of resistance and conflict. And what we are experiencing now, with the idea of rebuilding a third temple on this most sacred site, is not simply an act of construction, but an act that challenges the most deeply held beliefs and tests the very spirit of our city. Think for a moment about King David, the man after God's own heart. As the Bible tells us in 1 Samuel 13:14, David wanted to build a temple for the Lord, but it was his son Solomon who finally did it. The Temple Mount is for us Jews, a place full of meaning and sacrifice. There on the same land stood the original temple, the same one that saw the glory of God, and which, by his will, was destroyed. And then a second temple was built, only to be destroyed centuries later. Now, we are faced with the possibility of building a third, and the expectation is enormous. However, as president, I am aware of the complexity of this issue. The Temple Mount is not only a sacred place for us Jews, it is also a deeply revered place for Muslims, known as Haram al-Sharif, where the Dome of the Rock is located. This is the center of the conflict. It is a place that represents the aspirations and identity of two peoples, each with its history and its faith. Imagine two brothers claiming the same room, both with their hearts filled with emotions and dreams. This is what this conflict feels like. Building a third temple on this sacred site could be seen as a violation of that sanctity, something that would unleash devastating consequences. Echoes of history teach us that movements on this sacred site can unleash endless violence, something none of us desire. I'm reminded of the words of Jesus, who preached peace, love, and forgiveness for all. His message was clear: you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Matthew 20-39. Jesus came to unite, not divide. How could a temple that causes conflict follow his teachings? It is a question that haunts me as I watch the tensions growing in our country. Peace is what we need. Peace is what Jesus desired for all, not just for Jews but for all peoples of the earth. And peace is built on love and mutual understanding, not on the imposition of one idea over another. In this scenario, the Temple Mount becomes a symbolic battlefield, not just of armies but of souls. The conflicts that have marked our history are concentrated in this sacred place, where the aspirations of two peoples clash, and especially during the holy month of Ramadan, emotions are further heightened. The streets of Jerusalem, filled with religious fervor, become a field of struggle for peace and justice. Tensions between Arabs and Israelis are not only political but are also deeply rooted in the religious beliefs of each people. I have seen the destruction that violence can bring to our city, the pain that ripples through families, and the anguish that is passed down from generation to generation. Every confrontation, every new cycle of violence only perpetuates suffering. But I have also seen the power of reconciliation, of the peace that can emerge when we come together in the name of something greater than ourselves, the divine love that transcends our differences. Don't get me wrong, my love for Jerusalem and my devotion to the Jewish people are unquestionable, but I also know that we must be careful. Peace is not achieved by building walls, but by building bridges. It is true that the Temple Mount is our heritage, but it is also a shared heritage, and we must recognize the deep connection that all who inhabit this land have with it, regardless of their faith. The story of Jerusalem is not just ours, it is a story that belongs to humanity. Just as the Bible teaches us, that peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you, not as the world gives do I give to you. John 14:27. We must remember that true peace comes from above, and that peace is achieved through understanding, respect and mutual love. Jerusalem is a beacon of hope for the world, but it is also a testing ground for our faith and our humanity. As president, my task is not only to ensure the safety of my people, but also the spiritual well-being of all who live here, Jews, Muslims and Christians. Peace is a challenge, but it is also the only answer we must seek. It is what will leave us with a lasting legacy, far beyond any temple or building we may build. It was a quiet afternoon in Jerusalem when the winds of history began to blow, with an intensity I never imagined I would witness. As president of this city, I was always immersed in the complex politics that govern this holy place. But on that day, a palpable sense of change was in the air. The tension, which had been present for a long time, seemed to reach its peak, and I, Benjamin Netanyahu, found myself faced with a dilemma that transcended the boundaries of politics. The Temple Mount, the spiritual heart of Jerusalem, was once again in the spotlight, and with it all the issues involving faith, conflict and the history of two peoples. As political tensions between Israelis and Palestinians escalated, a deeper, more mysterious change seemed to be taking place, something beyond human understanding. It was a kind of phenomenon that could have been considered a sign, something that forced us to look to the heavens and to the earth in search of answers. In the skies of Jerusalem, strange lights began to shine. They were not ordinary lights, but a heavenly light that seemed to dance and move with divine grace. The spectacle was overwhelming, as if the heavens themselves were being part of a larger message, a divine message. My heart beat faster as I watched those bright flashes light up the old city, as people looked up at the sky in wonder and surprise. But that wasn't all. Along with those mystical lights, a strange, almost supernatural sound began to echo throughout the city. The sound wasn't something one could attribute to a natural phenomenon. It was deep, haunting, as if it came from another world, as if heaven itself was communicating with us. The wise, old men nearby spoke of these being the great signs. The Bible spoke of signs of the end of times, or perhaps a harbinger of the Messiah's return. However, while the heavens spoke to us, the earth was also giving its own warnings. Within hours, a vast swarm of locusts descended on Jerusalem. It was like a biblical plague, reminding us of the ancient warnings in the book of Exodus. The locusts moved in a dark mass covering the sky, their shadows seeming to steal the light of day. In that moment, I felt the weight of history resting on my shoulders. It was as if the events unfolding had a purpose far greater than I could understand at that instant. Meanwhile, the earthquakes ravaging other regions of the world, such as Turkey and Syria, were felt eerily in Jerusalem. The ground shook beneath my feet, and the Temple Mount, a place that had been a symbol of unity and conflict for millennia, was now the focus of all eyes in the world. As president, I knew that any action we took at this moment could set off a chain of events we could not control. Despite the challenges and historical tensions, something told me that these events, while terrifying, were a call to reflection, a call from God, the return of the Messiah. As many believed seemed closer than ever, but so was judgment. Were we prepared for what was to come? The natural disasters, the earthquakes, the plagues of locusts, it all seemed to be a reminder that the world needed profound change. The words of Scripture echoed in my mind as I watched the crowd in the square look to the sky, some in fear, others in hope. I knew that the future of Jerusalem and the world was intertwined with these signs, but at the same time, I knew that the greatest struggle was not over temples or territories, but over the love and forgiveness that God taught through His Son, Jesus Christ. As Jerusalem continues to witness these extraordinary events, we all, regardless of our faith or nationality, must remember the teachings of Jesus. Love is the key, peace is the goal. And while Christ's return may be imminent, our greatest mission is to build a temple in our hearts, a temple of love and understanding. I was there in the heart of Jerusalem, witnessing as history, in a breathtaking and almost supernatural way, began to unfold before my eyes. As president of this most sacred of cities, I had always been immersed in the political complexities and daily challenges of governing a people divided by so many beliefs. But at this moment, it all seemed small in the face of something greater that was approaching, something beyond human understanding, something that could be the fulfillment of ancient prophecies. I stood on the Mount of Olives, looking out at Jerusalem, with a feeling I couldn't quite identify, but I knew I was about to experience something transformative. Jesus' questions to His disciples still echoed in my mind. When will these things be? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age? Matthew 4:3. That same uncertainty, that same restlessness was what I felt now. Something was changing, not just in our city, but in the entire world. Suddenly, the sky above us began to glow with an intense light, as if the sun itself were disintegrating, but you couldn't look directly at it. The clouds seemed to move unnatural in the distance. In the sounds I had never seen before, rumbling began to fill the air, like thunder that never ceased. as if the firmament itself was warning mankind. I couldn't help but think of what Jesus had said. There will be great earthquakes, famines and pestilences in various places, and there will be terrors and great signs from heaven. Luke 21:11. As I watched, a shudder ran through the earth. The earth itself began to shake beneath my feet, and the buildings in Jerusalem, which had stood firm for centuries, seemed to momentarily falter. This was no ordinary earthquake. It was a reminder that the world is beyond our control, and that creation itself can react to divine will. Was this what Isaiah had foretold in his prophecies? You will be punished by the Lord of hosts with thunder, and earthquakes and a great roar of storms and… great! I found myself wondering if this was the beginning of the end times, just as Jesus had warned. The disciples had wanted to know when these things would happen, and now I was witnessing those signs in reality. The rumbling that filled the air, the heavenly light that overflowed the sky, the shaking of the earth, it all seemed to fit with what we had been taught. In the scriptures, these were not just catastrophes, but a divine invitation to reflection and repentance. Creation as a living being was displaying the signs of its creator, and we were all being called to look up to heaven and recognize the majesty of God. The people on the streets of Jerusalem looked up to heaven with a mixture of wonder and fear. Some, the most devout, knelt in silence praying fervently. Others in disbelief could only stare, suffocated by the magnitude of what they were witnessing. In my heart I felt an indescribable weight, as if the very future of our nation was at stake, as if